Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm a global artist ambassador for FENIX360, and I'm blessed to be joined today by the author actor ERIC RUARK. Hello, Eric. How are you?
Just fine.
Excellent, sir. I'm very happy to be with you and looking forward to sharing your journey as an artist. But I was wondering whether or not we might share with the audience initially. Go to your YouTube channel and check out No God West of Haze. Sound good?
Sounds great. I think
Looking.
they'll enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure we will. All right, everyone, let's tune in now to Eric RUARK and No God West of Haze.
No God West of Haze by Eric B. Ruark. Copyright 2020. Appeared in the September-October issue of Alfred Hitchcock's Mystery Magazine. 1874, July. Scribner's Monthly wrote, "There is no law west of Kansas City and no God west of Haze." August 1871. 18 years old and on the run again. Little Arkansas climbed off his horse. Using his fist, he rounded the crown of his hat, then poured half of his canteen into it. He held the hat under the horse's muzzle and allowed the animal to drink. After the horse had sucked it dry, Little Arkansas reformed the crown and placed the hat back on his head. Then he checked the horse's hooves. If Hickok were following him, he could not afford for his horse to go lame. Little Arkansas had no doubt that Wild Bill was on his trail, not because he had killed Charles Cougar for snoring, but because he had given Hickok his word to stay out of trouble while in Abilene. Which he did for the most part. Hell, he'd even gone to the circus with Wild Bill to see Miss Agnes Lake perform. Little Arkansas smiled, remembering how taken his mentor seemed to be with the beautiful equestrienne. No, Hickok could forgive him an accidental killing, but he would never forgive him for breaking his word. Little Arkansas cursed his luck. It was his own damn fault. He should never have gotten into that card game. He should never have gotten that drunk.
Wow, Eric, really appreciate seeing your work and enjoying sharing it with everyone and looking forward to learning about you now. Can you tell me where you're from and give me some highlights of your journey in being an actor and author?
Well, at the moment, I live on a boat just off the Chesapeake Bay outside of Baltimore.
Cool.
Um, I was into acting very strongly from like 1971, 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved away from the New York area, and commuting to New York at that point was prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's going to sound funny, but the COVID situation has been a godsend to me because people no longer want me to travel to New York. They want to see my stuff on YouTube. They want to see my stuff. So it opened up a whole, it allowed me to re-enter the industry, but now as a more mature actor, basically the old man, the grandfather.
Right.
And to be perfectly honest, at my age, which is 73, most of my competition is dead. So I'm,
Well, you're looking pretty good then. No, but you are looking good.
in fact, I just got back into the industry back in February of 2021, and excuse me, yes, 2021. I got to remember the dates here now. And during September, I did a little movie over in Washington D.C. called Tears of Guilt, and Tears of Guilt is 8 minutes long. It's also up on YouTube, and it won the Rome International Short Film Contest and a Cannes Film Festival Award for social commentary.
Oh, congratulations,
So,
man. That's great.
and I've been very blessed on this renewing of my basically coming out of retirement, so to speak.
Right. Well, that's fantastic. And this next chapter in your career, it's now blossoming, and the digital experience that you now are kind of using to push forth your art is being very well received. So that's excellent. Now, let me ask this question. When you were in your earlier career, or, in actors in general, I mean, were there any kinds of actors that kind of influenced your inspiration to want to get involved in the entertainment industry and acting?
Well, the man who influenced me the most, now we're going to have to go back 50 years or more. Most people probably won't even, they'll have to Google him to know who he is. But he was a flamenco dancer by the name of Jose Greco.
Huh.
Jose Greco was, at the time in the 60s, the premier flamenco dancer in the world. He was the most requested entertainer on the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, he was literally world renowned.
Top of his game, yeah.
Very long story short, which you actually can find on my blog page. is I became, by sheer accident, his good luck charm.
Huh.
And he ended up taking me to Spain and doing all kinds of stuff, and basically really, really saturating me with the entertainment bug.
Well, so he was a mentor for you, huh?
Yes, he was by any definition the mentor for me. I was 17 or 18 years old when he took me to Spain.
Wow.
And through him at that time, I met all the top bullfighters in Spain. Now,
exciting.
to America, that really doesn't mean anything, but that would be like going to the NBA and meeting all the top players and partying with
sport. I mean, that's their tradition. Absolutely.
These were, these were their gods with a small G.
Yes.
Champions.
Yeah, the hero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. And in fact, the bullfighting statistics were not reported on the sports pages because it's not a sport. They're reported on the arts page because they consider it a ballet with death.
Yeah, right.
And so it's a whole different mindset. And again, because of Jose, I got involved with these people. I got involved with the concept of entertainment and everything that they were doing, and it stayed with me for my entire life.
Well, it makes sense that it would. And how impressionable an 18-year-old and all of a sudden immersed in all these greats in this incredible country. And I mean, how much you must have absorbed and were exposed to. And it's just, what an education and what a mentor. So tell me, now I'm real interested in, you've just emerged now in this next chapter of your work. And, what are you working on currently and in the near future?
Well, I'm auditioning constantly to get more parts. I believe I mentioned No Tears of Guilt, Tears of Guilt, and there's another film I did called Sanctuary, and the young lady who produced and directed it is entering that in a bunch of contests. So you can see me at the Cannes Film Festival, and you can see me I believe you can see me at the upcoming Sundance Festival. Because her film will be in the sun. It's a story. It's the true story of the last runaway slave in Pennsylvania.
Huh, sure.
And I played the slave hunter who's tracking him down.
Oh,
I played the meanest son of a bitch you ever want to meet.
Right, exactly.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
Ruthless, and I'm sorry.
Ruthless, absolutely. I get to attempt a rape on the girl. I mean, I was just.
I don't want to even know. Okay.
Oh yeah. I am bad from the core to the tip of my toes to the top of my head.
Horrendous. Well, I hope you don't get typecasted in those kinds of roles, but nevertheless, it is great that you know what I mean. It demonstrates some of your depth in terms of your work, and also you know what I mean. You had some other kinds of works related to some Western themes that are really interesting to me as well. So I'd love to hear some of your perspective on your recent storytelling associated with the Bill Hickok character. Can you tell me a little bit about
the No God? Yeah, no, that's the No God West of Haze story.
Okay.
I've been very fascinated by Hickok for I don't know how long. I've read all the biographies and stuff. I even found a mistake in the latest biography and the gun he used. A lot of people don't realize, but Wild Bill Hickok did not use a gun with bullets.
Huh. Interesting.
It was still too early. He liked the Colt Navy 32. 1861 or 1862 Colt Navy, which was a 36 caliber, smaller caliber gun, but it used cap and ball. So to load his guns, he had to load in powder, ball, ram the ball in, and then would have
each load. Yep.
Smith & Wesson owned the patent on the bullet. And Colt wasn't able to get it until just about after Hickok died. I mean, when Hickok was killed, he was actually wearing Smith & Wessons with bullets, but his favorite gun was always that Colt Navy.
Interesting, really.
So I got into the story very, very heavily, and I discovered one thing, that in all the Hollywood treatments of the movie, one of the characters that always pops up was the other most well-known gunman in the West was John Wesley Hardin. He and Hickok were considered the two premier gunmen. I mean, even today, if you go to a shooting range or, where they have the black powder, 75 yards off, there's always a target. All right. And everybody every now and then shoots with a pistol at that target. That's the distance that Hickok killed somebody.
I see.
And to this day, very few people can ever hit that target.
Yeah, that's what a marksman was. Mhm.
Yes, but Harden. The reason that the story fascinated me was because in the movies, it's always played as a buddy story. But in
Right.
real life, Harden was 18 and Hickok was 34. This was a mentor story. Hickok was the father Harden never had, and Harden was the son Hickok never had.
Right.
Hickok taught Harden all his gunfighting tricks because Harden and Hickok knew each other in Abilene.
Hmm.
But Hickok always said that he didn't know it was John Wesley Harden because even at 18, Harden made Billy the Kid look like a choir boy.
Right. I hear what you're saying. So is the quite older mentor and more seasoned professional who actually was bringing up the young gun, you know, and it's kind of like the Emerson Thoreau comparison, or it's the, you know what I mean? It's the Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker
Obi-Wan.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, they used to put on Hickok didn't like to gunfight. As
Yeah.
famous as he was, he tried everything he could not to gunfight.
He was a
So when he
flamboyant, entertaining kind of character. Yeah. Mhm.
so when he was at Marshal of Abilene, what he would do when the cattle drive would come up, he would put on a shooting exhibition, and then let anyone come up and try to match him. Which of course nobody could, and they realized that if you cross this guy, you're going to be killed.
Yeah,
The
right.
only person who could match him shot for shot was John Wesley Harden.
I see. So
Right? And so Hickok basically took him under his wing, showed the kid how to draw a little faster, how to do this, how to, you know, and all sorts of little tricks. And then Harden, you know, all he asked Harden was simply, don't get in trouble while you're in Abilene. In fact, he even took Harden to the circus.
how about it? You know what I
They
mean?
went,
It's like a father-son kind of relationship.
yep,
Mhm.
they went to see this famous equestrian. I forget her name at the moment, but Hickok actually went after he was fired from Abilene when the cattle drive started moving west and they didn't need a gunman anymore. He went to New York and married this woman. This was his wife, not Calamity Jane.
Right.
That Calamity Jane was pure fiction on her part to try to dovetail on his fame.
Right.
So yeah, Harden and Hickok were really close, and all Hickok told Harden was, "Don't get in trouble in my town." And then one night, Harden got drunk. He and his friends were playing cards, and they got knee walking, chin scraping drunk, as John Wayne used to call it.
Right.
And there was a fellow, one of their buddies was named Charlie Cougar, and you know how drunks snore.
Yes. Right.
Yep. And
Sorry.
so they're sitting there, they're sleeping, you know, multiple people to a bed because that's how things were done in those days. And Cougar's in the next room and he is just snoring up and they can't wake him up. Right. The guy in the room is kicking at Charlie's feet. And so Harden finally gets mad, grabs his gun, shoots through the wall and yells, "Charlie, shut the F up, you know." And the guy comes walking in a few seconds later and says, "Who just put a bullet in Charlie's head?" He accidentally killed Charlie Cougar. Now, in his autobiography, Harden played that up as being the meanest man in the West for shooting a man for snoring.
Yeah. Right.
But so in real life, he had literally, with Hickok on his tail, he literally had to jump out of a window in his underwear, and he stole a wagon and he ran out of town.
Oh, and
Now,
Nick watched down that he said, "Don't do that."
yeah, and so in the story, that's where the real story stops and the fiction story begins, because in reality, Hickok could forgive him the mistake. But in my story, Hickok can't forgive him for breaking his word.
I see. I see. That's the philosophical kind of
Right.
more like, you know what I mean, in-depth line that can't be crossed.
Can't be crushed. You cannot break your word. So
Well,
in No God, called No God West of Haze, was that in I think it was 1878, which was 6 years after this story takes place. Scribner's Magazine wrote that there was no law west of Kansas City and no God west of Haze.
I see. And that's your play. Yeah.
Yeah, and so No God West of Haze comes into the being without being a spoiler. As the young man runs away, he falls in with some serious outlaws, and they hostage. That is this young, beautiful girl about 17, and the young boy falls for the young girl, and is forced.
All these motifs are so rich and have been involved in all kinds of Western drama, you know, that I, as a kid, you know, this was my favorite thing to watch on television. I could name all the TV Westerns and all those heroes of mine growing up. So I'm glad that you're also this enthusiast and actual bringing these stories to light and to life. And you can find them on your social media links now, part 1 and part 2 of God
Part
West.
2. I'm recording part 3. I don't know how long it's going to, how many parts are going to be, because I only put in 8 to 10 minutes each time, figuring people's attention span, they're not going to want to listen to the whole story from beginning to end.
I appreciate it. Well, if they do want to follow your progress, they can do so by checking out the social media links that you'll find below our interview today. And check out the progress for ERIC RUARK. You're probably going to see him starring in many more things here coming up in this next chapter of your career. And thank you, Eric, for being with me. We're looking forward to your rise happening on FENIX360 as well.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for the rich history and appreciate your art. And you take care. I appreciate you, Eric. Take care.
He should never have shot indiscriminately through the hotel room wall to wake Cougar up. How was he to know that Charlie's bed was against their shared wall? It's not like he meant to put a ball through the man's head. He had nothing against him except for the snoring, but damn, that man could snore. The young man remounted and checked the skyline behind him. Hickok was too good a plainsman to get spotted that easily, but there was always the chance that Wild Bill would make a mistake. Granted, a cow jumping over the moon was more likely, but Little Arkansas could always hope. So far, considering the options, he had been more than lucky. He had had to jump out of the hotel room window wearing nothing but his union suit. Before defenestrating himself, he had had the presence of mind to grab his vest, to which his holsters were attached. And then he had been lucky enough to find an unattended horse and wagon tied up behind the hotel. Borrowing it was his only option for a quick getaway. Since he had sent it back with Tom Carson and Ben Davis, he didn't exactly consider it stealing. And so far, his decision to head down the Chisholm Trail had worked out to his advantage, but he knew that he couldn't count on luck with a man like Hickok on his trail.